headed out to do morning chores, and I thought I would talk about my chicken order this year because I changed my meat chicken order. I changed it from all Cornish Crosses to Cornish Crosses and Red Rangers. What's the deal with Red Rangers? Should you raise Red Rangers on your homestead? Or should you do Cornish Crosses? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. Recently, I had an interview with my buddy John from Farm Marketing Solutions for the podcast. You can watch that entire episode here, or here, wherever it pops up. But he said something very interesting. I asked John what was his suggestion for homesteaders, the kinds of meat chickens they could have. And the first thing he talked about was the different breeds that are out there, the different options.
So you can get into different breed specificity. Even the Cornish Cross, there's different strands of the Cornish Cross. So you have a lot of options out there, but the main distilled down into categories are Cornish Cross, which is your industrial chicken raised in barns by Tyson. 8 weeks. They raise them in 5.5 weeks, but on pasture you're going to look at about 8 weeks. Big breasts, a lot of white meat. It's a lot more fragile bird. When you overly selectively breed for one trait, you get other negative traits. So they're a little less hardy because they're made to eat antibiotics and sleep in a barn. Then there's the Red Rangers, which take 11 to 12 weeks to get to that same 4-pound carcass. They're a lot hardier. They're better foragers. They have smaller, more narrow breasts. I call it a white meat bird versus a dark meat bird. You get a lot more dark meat, chickeny flavor in the Red Ranger. And then your third is the dual-purpose, more heritage breeds that if you have a homestead, you can raise Delawares or Barred Rocks or Black Australorps, something with a larger frame to it that'll carry more meat, but it'll also produce eggs long-term if you want. So you can get a straight-run flock, raise the cockerels to process weight and eat the roosters, and then keep the hens for laying if you want. The thing with the dual purpose birds, as you'll find with anything dual purpose, if you're doing more than one thing, you're doing them both poorly, or not as effectively as you could. Doesn't necessarily mean it's poor.
So there's the Cornish Cross, there's the Red Ranger, kind of middle of the road, and then there's your dual purpose. Those are your meat breeds. The Cornish Cross is what we've raised every year for meat chickens. It yields the biggest carcass. It's a big meaty carcass, and it's just a good quality meat bird. Our customers really like that, so it's a good option if you're doing a business. Hey, what are you doing out? He was out all night. I have never even considered raising anything else. But then John talked about the other two options. The Red Ranger is kind of the middle of the road.
What would your suggestion, someone who's never raised chickens for meat, right, and they just heard you explain the benefits of each kind, what would you suggest they start with?
That's a really good question. I would, if they've never raised birds for meat, I would go with the Red Rangers, honestly.
Really?
If you're not doing it for business, if you're learning the chickens and you want to learn all about the chickenness, go with the Red Rangers. They're more intelligent, they're better foragers, they're more personable, they have a lower mortality in general because they're a little hardier. So if you're willing to put in an extra 3 weeks to a month of grow out to get the carcass weight that you might be more desirable, go with the birds that are going to be a little hardier and are going to give you an easier time. They inherently give you a little bit more flexibility in the learning curve.
Ducklings, you guys are looking good. Okay, everyone's got their water. That's your feed. We have a very big snowstorm coming in the next day or two, and gotta make sure everyone's stocked up good and everything's working. John has convinced me, despite the fact that they take 4 weeks longer to get to market weight, to try the Red Rangers. So should you on your homestead? Well, John's advice was good. It was that if you want to have meat birds, if you've never done it before, Red Rangers are a good place to start.
And once you learn how to grow and process and prepare a chicken, and you want to become more efficient, make a little bit more money, you might go back to Cornish Cross. I honestly would love the day that we see the end of the Cornish Cross altogether. It works for farmers right now, you know, the pasture-based model, quicker turnaround, all the things that we've talked about. But it's not a sustainable breed. It's not a great breed. It's something that, you know, has been developed for people, and a lot of marketing dollars has been spent to convince us that that's what a chicken is. A chicken is not a Cornish Cross. Cornish Cross is a mutant.
They're more chickeny. You'll get to learn more about keeping chickens than you would with like a Cornish Cross, because Cornish Crosses are not very chickeny. They're very lazy. They're more couch potato-y.
The Red Rangers are less mutant and more chicken, and you're going to have a more enjoyable experience going that route.
You're speaking bad about mutants. I feel like you haven't watched X-Men in a while.
I have almost every X-Men movie memorized, so Wolverine is my hero. For a year and a half, I was convinced that if I thought hard enough, and this is not in the distant past, that if I thought hard enough, I could shoot Wolverine claws out. You know, physiology be damned.
That could be helpful for chicken processing.
Right.
But then John did say some different advice for raising meat chickens for a business. What should you do if you're planning on making a business out of your meat chicken enterprise? What is the right breed for the business? Well, find out that answer in tomorrow's video.